Namaskar and welcome to this special presentation. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh. Now, ensuring a secured future is central to any financial planning, and that's where pensions become important. Pensions give us financial security, stability at a time when our regular income stops coming to us. Now, the importance of pensions can also be gauged from the fact that life expectancy of people in India and also abroad is increasing, and therefore pensions are becoming all the more important. Government of India, in order to provide the social security to citizens, introduced the National Pension System, NPS, in the year 2004. And today in this special presentation, we'll talk about different aspects of NPS and also the larger context of pensions in India. Allow me to introduce two special guests who are joining us to take this conversation forward. Joining me is Supratim Bandyopadhyay, Chairperson, PFRDA. It's a regulatory body, Pension Fund Regulatory and Development Authority, that regulates NPS. So warm welcome, sir, to the program. And also joining me is another special guest, Bahroz Kamdeen, a tax expert, also partner with Deloitte, Haskins and Sells. Welcome, ma'am, to this special conversation. Mr. Bandyopadhyay, if I can begin with you. Pensions promise a secure future. But if you look at the percentage of coverage in the country, 12 to 14% of the working population in India is covered under different pension schemes. That's an abysmally low number. How do you look at the situation?
Mr. Ghosh, you are absolutely correct. The number of people covered under pension is pretty low comparing the number of people who really need pension. The reason could be is that now pension is limited to only organized sector, people who are working with private sector, public sector, even government also. But beyond that, people who are in the unorganized sector and who constitute a large number or large part of the labor force, they are to a great extent is out of the ambit of any kind of pension scheme. So our target from PFRDA is to reach out to these people and try to give them the security of pension.
Mr. Bandyopadhyay, also if we look at the manner in which NPS becomes very crucial in such a scenario, tell us about its coverage, the manner it seeks out, reaches out to both the organized and the unorganized sector.
Yes, that's a very important question, Mr. Ghosh, because as I said that a large part of the organized sector is still covered, but the unorganized sector is not at all covered in any kind of pension system. So the target of PFRDA is not only to reach out to other parts of the organized sector, but to cover the unorganized sector also in a much bigger way. And apart from NPS, what is there in our kitty is a product called Atal Pension Yojana. It is specifically targeted towards the unorganized sector, and within the age group of 18 to 40. We started in 2015 distributing this product. And today I am very happy to say that we are very close to 3 crore people coming under the fold of Atal Pension Yojana. This year itself we added about 66 lakh new customer under Atal Pension Yojana. Apart from this, in NPS also we started with central government, went to state government and then opened it up to corporates and to individual retail customers. And individuals and corporates taken together, we have about 2.6 million people who are there with us. So far as central and state government is there, we have about little over 72 lakh customers with us. So all taken together, we are little over 4 crore total customers under NPS and APY as on date.
Right. And taking the conversation forward, Bahroz Kamdeen, if I can also bring you into the conversation, ma'am. Now, today there is a diversity of financial tools available, pension schemes available. What makes NPS special?
There are diverse tools which are available, and NPS is one of them. So we need to look at all of the tools which are available, all of the investment securities. So you can have your own private pension funds, you have your own PF, you have EPFOs, you have PPF, and you have your insurance policies, mutual funds and NPS. Now if you look at all of them together and see what is more advantageous, one, NPS surely gets in better because it's an account which stays with you. It is not something that is there with the employer. And secondly, anyone who's not in employment can also do it. It is not restricted that you have to be in employment of central government or state governments or public sector undertakings to be eligible to invest in NPS. It is available to general public. So that is very important. Secondly, the account stays with you. It's not something that once you change employment and you lose your pension, it continues with you throughout your life. And the third thing is the tax benefits. NPS has an advantage because you get exclusive 50,000 additional tax benefit by investing in NPS. So that's the third advantage that you're getting by putting into NPS accounts. And of course, the returns, which Mr. Bandyopadhyay will speak in ahead, but the returns which the NPS is giving and the security, you can invest in government securities. I mean, that is one thing which is very important. By investing in government security, you're still getting a return of 10%. And that's very safe as compared to other products where my return is, my investment may be safe, but my return is around 7%. So you need to balance the risk and the return and also see the advantages from tax and cost.
Right. Mr. Bandyopadhyay, financial planning is easy when you know how. So if you could begin with the simple steps for those who are unfamiliar with NPS. We know for government, for state government, for central government employees, NPS is a compulsory component, but it's also open for general public to become a subscriber of NPS. How does one begin? What is the starting point for anyone who wants to, who's not part of government service, but still wants an NPS account? Where does one begin?
The first thing that a person has to look into is that you start early. You don't delay, because normally we see that pension related decisions are normally reserved for the later part of your working life, which is maybe later part of 40s or early 50s people start planning, and when they ultimately retire, normally the retirement age here is 60 years. By the time they generate only a very small minuscule kind of a corpus, and which really cannot sustain them. Madam has already told that the longevity has increased. I just want to give you a feeling about it. Today in India, a person who has reached 60 years is supposed to on an average live for another 18 years, and that's a long period of time. So if you don't have enough corpus, there is always a chance that you will outlive the corpus, and thereafter there will be no financial support. So first thing is to start early as possible. And there is a lot of flexibility in the system. It's not that you have a lot of money at the beginning of your career, so you start in a small way. Say we have a provision that a person can contribute just about 1,000 rupees a year and continue an account. And whenever you have extra cash flow, extra liquidity, you can put in more money, 50,000, 1 lakh, 1,50,000. There is absolutely no limit to what you can contribute in a particular year. Only thing is that whatever you contribute should be justified by your known sources of income. With that you can contribute anything, and you can build up your corpus, and if you start early you have enough time at your disposal to build up a new corpus. And thirdly, one more thing I want to say is that where to invest. See, one is that if you don't know where to invest, you can choose a life cycle fund. Life cycle fund adjusts your investment according to your age. There are different life cycle funds. You can start with a 50% life cycle fund, means up to the age of 35 the exposure to equity will be limited to 50%, and as the age goes up with each birthday, the equity exposure will come down and debt exposure will go up. So slowly as you are reaching say 50, 55, the equity exposure will come to just about 10%. So normally we feel that with higher age you have lesser risk appetite, so that will be done. Or if you are very sure about your destination, about your risk appetite, you can choose the assets as you want at the very beginning.
Right. Baroz ma'am, one of the ways in which NPS becomes distinct is also the kind of exposure that it gives to financial markets, to equities. If you could help us understand that aspect, does it also bring in risk? What are the advantages?
The most biggest advantage is it allows you to manage your funds. So it allows you to actually invest in, depending on the asset allocation, whether you want to make it into equity or corporate bonds or debt securities or government securities. So it is giving you the decision making power as to where do you want to invest. And of course the risk is always there. So higher the risk, higher the returns is a norm known to everyone. But yes, you have to be very careful because this is your retirement planning. You do not want to put into a risky proposition and then not have a corpus at retirement. So you need to balance your risk and take care of your capital which you've invested in, the contribution that you've made, and then also earn reasonable returns. So you need to keep monitoring it. And those who don't want to monitor, or those who don't feel that they are financially savvy to really make investment decisions, they can of course use the life cycle funds which are already there, the patent funds of NPS, or you can also invest only in government securities. So you need to take a decision, and the decision making is with you. So at least you are aware that where you're investing and how much you're investing in, and then spread across your asset allocation. But all that flexibility is there with NPS, which is not available in other funds. So at least you're there. There could be mutual funds you've invested and not giving any returns at all. Here the flexibility lies with you as to where you want to invest, how much you want to earn, and whether you want to change that investment during the life cycle itself. You don't have to continue with it. You can change investment patterns during the year. You can change fund managers during the year. So in that manner, NPS is advantageous.
Right, so the flexibility that it offers, that makes NPS quite distinct. We're heading for a short break here. Our conversation about national pension system will continue when we return.
Secure your pension after retirement by joining NPS. Any Indian citizen aged 18 to 65 years can enroll in NPS and receive pension benefits. By contributing in NPS, a person can get exclusive tax deduction benefit of 50,000 rupees under Section 80 CCD 1B, over and above the deduction benefit of 1.5 lakh rupees under Section 80C of the Income Tax Act, 1961. Register now by visiting your nearest bank branch or call at PFRDA call center number 1-800-110-708.
Welcome back to this special presentation. We are talking about national pension system, and the chairman of PFRDA, Supratim Bandyopadhyay, continues to be with us. Sir, if we take the conversation forward, this scheme was launched in 2004. Since then, how has been the performance, considering that it's linked to the market as well? And what is the manner in which PFRDA regulates the operations of NPS?
Yes, actually, everybody would like to know the kind of returns, the kind of performance that we have given during this period. The scheme started in 2004, but the money started flowing in to the system sometime in 2008. So we have a track record of almost close to 13 years now, and I am very happy to tell you that central government scheme, means which contains central government subscriber and central autonomous body subscribers, over these 12-13 years has given a compounded annual growth rate of 10%, having 15% equity in the overall exposure. And so far as state government schemes are concerned, which started maybe 1 year later, there also our track record says it is little over 9.90% compounded annual growth. So if you look at it, I believe taking an exposure of only 15% and equity, and with so much of volatility in the market, our fund managers have done a very, very decent job.
And Barrows ma'am, if I can come to you, particularly to understand the role of fund managers. People put their hard-earned money into a fund with responsibility with somebody else. What is the role of fund managers, especially in the case of NPS? What do they do and how do we see their performance?
So depending on the asset allocation which has been chosen by the investor, the fund manager will make investments in it, and depending on what the returns are being given, the return on the NPS is, then you have the net asset value determined for the units that you've purchased. So if you put in more into equity, it is an aggressive fund, and therefore returns are linked to the market. Depending on what you invest in corporate debt, you can invest up to 35% or higher than 35%. The returns will come based on your corporate debt investments that are done. And fund managers are doing those investments. So you can actually track your investments on a daily basis, And you can also see what the returns that fund manager is giving and what returns other fund managers are giving. So there's a lot of transparency. They have got 4 to 5 fund managers which are there, and you can compare the returns which each of the fund managers are providing. And then accordingly, you can choose your fund manager. So it is very essential to see that you can track your investments, what is being done, and you can change the fund manager if the returns are not good. You can change asset allocation. So you can go from corporate debt to government securities, or you can go from equity to corporate debt, or from corporate debt to equity. We've seen markets rise so much now in the whole of the lockdown. The one good thing which really happened was our markets zoomed. And anyone who has put in money 1 year back would have really made a huge profit in the capital market. So depending on how you want to make investments and how financially savvy are you in taking technical decisions. If you're someone who doesn't understand the markets and don't want to take decisions, then you should go by the pattern which has been set by NPS and go by those life cycle funds. Or you can go into government securities. See, you have to balance both. You have to know what is your technical competence. You have to know what is the returns that you want, and you also have to know what the risk involved are. So, of course, there's a lot of risk involved because you're putting in equity and corporate debts.
Right.
So there is a risk element involved, and therefore your returns are higher. You have to understand all of that and then make investments. And if you don't understand that, then you make investments in government securities, which is quite safe.
Right. Mr. Bandyopadhyay, one of the reasons people often shy away from financial planning is for the complexity involved in it. If we talk about how simple NPS is, from the enrollment, if it can be done online, to monitoring the manner in which one's investment is growing, all that can be monitored through a mobile app, I understand. If you can tell us a little about that.
Yes, we already have a mobile app which is available both under iOS and Android. You download it, and I believe a lot of people today, even in rural areas also, they are using smartphones. They can download it, check the provisions of NPS. They can enter the scheme through eNPS. There is an online process, so they don't have to come to the bank branch or any other points of presence to start their account. They can sit at the comfort of their home and they can do it. So these are a lot of advantages, and through your mobile app thereafter you can monitor the performance of the fund, and if you wish you can further contribute in the scheme. We recently started a scheme, a direct remittance, where from October 1st or October 1st we started that scheme, and I am very happy to tell you that there, if you put your money by 9:30 in the morning, you get the same day value which was not there, otherwise it was taking 2 more days. But similarly, like mutual funds, if you put your money, invest your money within a certain cut of time, you get the same day value, same day NAV. So here also we have started it, and more than 150, 160 crore of amount we have collected through that direct remittance system. So all these benefits are being given to the customers or would be customers.
And how is the popularity of NPS amongst customers, subscribers increase? What is the penetration that you've seen, especially in smaller towns and cities?
Actually, we have some data. If you look at the data points, I believe more than 40-45% of our customers come from not from metros or not from state capitals, but from other areas. So I believe people coming from that area, they also have seen the importance of NPS, the kind of tax benefit, the kinds of returns that they are getting, and they are also slowly joining into the scheme.
And we'll continue our conversation on national pension system. We're heading for a short break. We'll be right back.
Secure your pension after retirement by joining NPS. Any Indian citizen aged 18 to 65 years can enroll in NPS and receive pension benefits. By contributing in NPS, a person can get exclusive tax deduction benefit of 50,000 rupees under Section 80 CCD 1B, over and above the deduction benefit of 1.5 lakh rupees under Section 80C of the Income Tax Act, 1961. Register now by visiting your nearest bank branch or call at PFRDA call center number 1-800-110-708.
Welcome back to this special presentation. We are talking about national pension system, the different aspects of it. Let's connect with our tax expert, Bharos Kamdin. Ma'am, we're talking about a pension plan. A person perhaps who's 25, 30 years old is investing into a fund that he or she will be able to utilize when they retire, when they turn 60. How does one imagine how much money should one put in? Is there a formula to it? How do we imagine how much money we'll need when we retire and turn 60?
So if you look at it, generally the rate of return, if you look at the rate of return is around 7%, 8%. And if you look at the GDP growth, so generally you look at the GDP growth of the country and you see the rate of return, you will have to multiply that and see how much your corpus will be there. So if you're going to earn, say, get a corpus of 1 crore of rupees at the end of, at the age of 60 years, 7% of that is something which you'll get as an annuity from that, or 6%. Not more than 6% would be the annuity. So then you have to see 6% of 1 crore is what you will earn as your annual income. Is that sufficient for you to maintain it? If it's not sufficient, then you surely need a much more bigger corpus at the age of 60. And therefore, you need to start contributing early in life so that you have a number of years to contribute and reasonable amounts to contribute so that you can build a good corpus to give you a return which will be around 6%, 7%. Our annuity returns presently ranges from 5 to 6%, and you take that and you multiply and find your corpus.
Right.
But that is how you'll have to look, and then of course you have to look at your inflation rates also.
Right. Mr. Bandyopadhyay, if I can bring a question to you about the life cycle of the pension fund. We start at a young age. By the time we're 60, we're eligible to receive the pension. If you could tell us, how does it work? When one turns 60, what is the withdrawal procedure? What part of the fund can one get lump sum? What part into an annuity?
See, what we have enabled in the system is that post retirement, a person can take as high as 60% of the total corpus as a one-time lump sum, and that entire 60% is tax free, and the balance 40% has to be compulsorily annuitized. Why compulsory annuitization? Is that the system is created to give a regular income to that person. So unless this annuitization is there, people will not get a regular income. If you get entire 100% back at one lump sum, how the money will be utilized, it's difficult to say. So this 40% is given back as an annuity, and as madam has already said, there are many annuity choices, about 7 to 8 annuity choices. We have 12 annuity service providers which are empaneled with us. So one has to choose from those options that which annuity will really fit in to his or her need, and accordingly that 40% can be utilized. But here there is a small thing that I want to point out. 60% is the maximum withdrawal that you can do. That means that if you wish to get a higher amount of annuity, you can say take out only 30% as a lump sum and balance 70% you can annuitize. So to that extent, your regular income as in the form of annuity also will increase. So these choices are there in your hand, these flexibilities are there in your hand, and accordingly you can choose as to what should be done. The 60% withdrawal is also tax free, the 40% annuity also is tax free, but when the annuity returns come, these become taxable. So that way if you take at it, look at it, it is a triple E kind of a scheme which is exempt, 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 exempt at the point of contribution, exempt at the point of accumulation, and exempt at the point of withdrawal also.
Right. And Bharos ma'am, if I can connect with you and talk about the question that we wanted to bring to you for some time about the tax saving advantage that NPS brings with it. If you could tell us about that.
Yeah, so on tax saving, basically the employer's contribution which is done to NPS account, it is actually fully taxable under section 17, but you get a full deduction for that amount under 80CCD2. So the entire employer's contribution, if it's within the threshold limit of say 10% for non-central government and 14% for central government, the entire amount what is contributed is deductible. So you don't pay any tax on the employer's contribution. Employee's contribution, again you get a deduction for it under 80CCD, and that is to the extent of if you don't have anything under 80C, which is like PF and PPF and all that, if you don't have all of that, then you get up to 1,50,000. And additionally you get a 50,000 deduction exclusively for NPS. So if you invest additional 50,000 under NPS account, you get a deduction for it. And if you're in the highest tax bracket, like we mentioned earlier, you get 34% tax immediate benefit, which you get 17,000 out of that 50,000 you save on tax, and 33,000 is actually your investment which is there. So your investment return should be counted on 33 and not on 50,000 if that you look at it. So you look at the tax advantages that you get by putting in NPS whenever you count your return on investments. The second thing which happens is that now government has come out with a scheme to say that you pay a lower rate of tax and you don't claim deductions. So you don't have to make investments, but you get tax at a lower rate of tax and not the normal slab rates which are there. That we found that may not be very advantageous for the high slab rate bracket individuals. But if you're in the low slab rate brackets, then maybe you could go for a lower rate of tax without claiming deductions which are there. And like Mr. Bandyopadhyay mentioned, annuity what you receive is fully taxable. So whatever you pay for the purchase of the annuity, you don't get that as a deduction. You can get a return on your capital on annuity, but the annuity is fully taxable. When you do cash withdrawals, you can do withdrawals during the term itself. Partial withdrawals are allowed in NPS, subject to, of course, it being for particular purposes which are specified therein. Now, when you do a partial withdrawal, an employee gets a benefit to say that if the withdrawal is less than 25% of the contribution that is made by the employee, then it is not taxable. Now, this is only for an employee. It does not extend further to individuals. And NPS is an account where even individuals can contribute on their own. So that sort of a benefit should be extended even to individuals which are there. There was a change which was brought about by the Finance Act 2020 to say employers' contribution to PF, Provident Fund, NPS account and superannuation fund, if it exceeds more than 7,50,000 rupees, will become taxable. So we already had a case where we are saying employers' contribution is taxable as salary, and now they are saying that anything which exceeds 7,50,000 will become taxable as perquisite. The annual accretion on that amount, whatever annual accretion happens on that excess amount, will also be taxable.
Right. And Mr. Bandyopadhyay, your final thoughts. You mentioned that starting early is the key as far as saving for pensions is concerned. For a lot of youngsters watching this program, what would you say if they're thinking about pension is too far away in time when we retire or turn 60? How significant is it to start now?
Yeah, as I said, and I want to repeat also, start early, because normally we feel that our retirement is not going to come now, maybe it is 30, 35 years ahead, and we'll start think about the pension at a later point. And as I said, normally we start pretty late in life, maybe early part of our 50s. So by the time you have very little time left, so that's why you start early, contribute judiciously, and try to make a corpus which will definitely support your lifestyle. So all the best to all the youngsters, that they should start thinking about their pension right now and right today.
Right. And Barrows ma'am, your final thoughts, why youngsters should think about their pension now?
So if you look at global practices, I mean, if you look at the other countries, pension, if you look at UK and Australia, which is very well known for pension funds, their assets under management is around 123% of the GDP. You look at China and USA, their asset under management for pension is around 80 to 87%. And if you look at India, our asset under management as a percentage of GDP is around just 10%. So we really don't have funding for our retirement benefits. Today, if we don't fund for the retirement benefits and then we are going to live longer, I mean, it's going to become more difficult for people to really sustain post-retirement. Unless we really have so much of job opportunities, we increase our retirement age. Otherwise, it's going to be extremely difficult for people to sustain themselves when they retire. So it is very essential that youths should start doing it young and start early in life, because then when you keep invested for a longer period of time, the returns have always shown to be much better.
Right.
If you invest for 10 years as compared to a 30-year, you can look at equity market, you can look at mutual fund returns. Whoever has invested for a longer period has got better returns as compared to who just came in for a year, 2 years, 3 years, depending, of course, on the market, how it is. But therefore, it is essential that a youth has to start early in life, has to be invested for a longer period, has to build a sufficient good corpus, taking into account your standard of living. And then when you retire, you still have a good life. So I think you have to start early.
Right there. Let me thank you both then for joining us and telling us about the importance of NPS. Supratim Bandyopadhyay, sir, thank you very much. Also, Barrows Kamadin, thank you, ma'am, for joining us and expanding our horizon of understanding about NPS, National Pension System. Starting early is the key. Now is the time to prepare for your retirement and pensions. And with that, we conclude this special presentation. Namaskar.